Hi everyone, welcome to my first installment of Psychologist Does. And today I wanted to take you through a CBT exercise called the ABC model or the thought diary. And so I've taken a form from the Centre for Clinical Intervention, which is a Western Australian government website which has a lot of really helpful resources, worksheets, actual workbooks you can work through to help with depression, anxiety, a whole bunch of stuff on there. It's worth checking out. But this particular form I've taken is called a thought diary. And on this, what we will do is take what's called an activating event, which is something that is triggering or difficult or something that brings up anxiety, fear, any other negative emotion. Like, for example, in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, they have a public speaking event, and when they think about it, they start to become fearful. They can experience symptoms of panic, possibly if it gets that strong, but generally the body becomes tense. They might experience these symptoms of anxiety. And so what we use is the thought diary to help clients challenge some of these unhelpful thoughts and to help bring their level of anxiety down. And so what the thought diary assumes and what CBT assumes generally is that our thoughts lead to our feelings. And so as we go through this workbook, as we go through this exercise, what you're actually going to see is the way in which our thoughts lead to our feelings and what we can do to intervene. Then through our thinking and through managing our thinking and changing our thoughts, we can actually reduce the level of anxiety that we're experiencing. And so as we go through this thought diary, the first thing we want to do is to identify the activating event. And that's where the A comes from in the ABC part of this model. So in this instance, the activating event is that I have to give a presentation in front of a large group of people at work. So I can already feel my anxiety rising. I don't know about you, but this is one that comes up a lot. Giving presentations in front of people, giving public speeches, having to speak in front of people, generally pretty terrifying. So then looking at the thought diary, you'll notice that there's 2 columns here on this first page. And so the activating event then goes down to the consequences. And the reason this is set out this way is because usually what happens is we react to the activating event with some kind of feeling, some kind of consequence, feeling or behavior that comes up in response to the activating event. And so what we want to do is identify what that is. We want to write down words describing how you feel. And so maybe it's something like straight up fear. It's fear that I feel. Maybe anxiety. Maybe self-doubt. And so we have these 3. And then what we want to do is mark the one that is most associated with the activating event using an asterisk. And so we might give fear the little asterisk here. And then we want to rate the intensity of this feeling between 0 to 100. So we've got probably like a 90 out of 100. And then you might say here down the bottom, it says, jot down any physical sensations you experienced or actions carried out. So maybe the physical experiences might have been something like a rapid heartbeat. Maybe there was something like sweaty palms. What other ones might have happened? Maybe we had shaky voice or shortness of breath. So these are the kind of physical sensations that you might notice when you're experiencing this fear. And so then there are some actions that might happen. So what are the actions? These actions are usually, well, when it comes to anxiety, they tend to be avoidant in nature. So we might avoid practicing. What else might we do? We might ruminate about failing. We might even consider calling in sick. All right, so you can see here, the left-hand side is all filled out. A, activating event. We know what that is. Consequence of that activating event is that we feel fear. It's at a 90 out of 100. Really don't want to do this. We've got our rapid heartbeat, sweaty palms, shaky voice, feeling short of breath. The actions that we take, we avoid practicing, we're ruminating about failing, and then we're considering calling in sick. We've probably all been there. So what this thought diary then wants to do is help us understand that we're linking the activating event to the consequence through a mediating factor. And the mediating factor here is our beliefs. So let's have a look at what it says. List all statements that link A to C. Ask yourself, what was I thinking? What was I saying to myself? What was going through my head at the time? Find the most distressing, hot thought and mark it down with an asterisk. Rate how much you believe this thought between 0 to 100. All right, let's start. So, number 1, I'll completely mess up the speech. Number 2, everyone will judge me and think I'm incompetent. Ouch. What's the third one? The third one might be, if I stumble on my words, they'll think I'm stupid. Maybe I'll forget everything and embarrass myself. Maybe another one. I shouldn't feel this nervous. Good speakers are always confident. All right. So now we have some beliefs here. And you can see that if I were thinking these things, then I'd probably be feeling that feeling. But let's see, now I've got these beliefs. So what does it tell me to do next? Find the most distressing hot thought and mark it with an asterisk. So everyone will judge me and think I'm incompetent. I think that's the one. And so I give that an asterisk. And then it says, rate how much you believe this thought between 0 to 100. I reckon it's pretty high. So I'll give it a 75 out of 100. And so now we go to the unhelpful thinking styles. Do you recognize any unhelpful thinking styles you might have been using? A mental filter, jumping to conclusions, personalizing, catastrophizing, black and white thinking, shoulding and musting, overgeneralization, labeling, emotional reasoning, disqualifying or ignoring positives. Probably catastrophizing. I'm not sure if this is exactly a word or not, but I guess what it means is making big catastrophes in your mind, mountains out of molehills, something along the lines of, it'll be a disaster. All right. So the other one that we might be doing is mind reading. Well, how are we mind reading? Well, we're assuming what other people will think. They'll think I'm incompetent. So that's us assuming. So that we are mind reading there. Maybe black and white thinking. Black and white. I have to be perfect, or I'm a failure. And then there's emotional reasoning. Emotional reasoning. And what this looks like is, I feel nervous, so I must be bad at public speaking. So now we have some unhelpful thinking styles that we've identified from the beliefs above. So now let's flick over to the next page. It's time to do some detective work and disputation. So in order to do the detective work, we want to write down what the hot thought is and then look for the factual evidence for and then the factual evidence against, just like a detective might look for evidence. So what's the hot thought? The hot thought was, everyone will judge me and think I'm incompetent. Okay, everyone will judge me and think I'm incompetent. Now, let's open this up and have a look for factual evidence for my hot thought. So firstly, some people, they might notice me struggle. I have stumbled in speeches in the past. And maybe I feel nervous, which makes me think I'll fail. All right, so we have some factual evidence for my hot thought. I mean, these things are fairly compelling. If people are noticing, then they might notice me fail. They might notice me struggle. I have given speeches before in the past and I've stumbled and I'm aware of that. And then I feel nervous, which makes me think I will fail. So now let's have a look for the factual evidence against my hot thought. Firstly, we might think something like, people are usually focused on the content and not judging me. I have successfully spoken in public before, even if I stumble, I'm not incompetent. Many great speakers make mistakes. Most people want me to do well. Nerves are normal and don't determine my actual performance. And if anything, nerves show me and everyone else that I actually care about what I'm doing. So now we go into disputation, and this is where we want to dispute some of these thoughts and give some challenges there. So the first thing we could ask myself is, if I were not feeling this way, how would I view this situation? So maybe I would look at it like, it's just another task, like writing a report. It's not life or death. That's kind of true. The next question I might ask myself is, realistically, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I might stumble, but I can recover. People tend to forget small mistakes quickly. So another question I might ask is, How might someone else see this? So a colleague might see it as a normal work challenge. Not a catastrophe. And finally, asking ourselves the question, does it really help me to think this way? Well, no. This thinking makes me more anxious and doesn't improve my performance. Okay, so now we have the D done, detective work, disputation. We've written down some things. Now, the end result. Let's have a look at some balanced thoughts. After looking at all the evidence for and against your hot thought, and having considered the disputation questions, replace the hot thought with a helpful, balanced thought. Okay, let's see what we can do. I may feel nervous, but that doesn't mean I will fail. Most people don't notice small mistakes and even if I stumble, I can recover and finish strong. Also, there's not a lot of space here, but let's try. Public speaking is a skill I can improve. I want to add that it's okay to feel some nerves, and that doesn't mean that I'm bad at it, but that's okay for now. I think we've got enough. We've got the picture. Now we want to re-rate the emotion. So now that I've had a think about it, I've challenged my thoughts, I've disputed it a bit, I've noticed that a lot of the heat, a lot of the sting of the feeling has dramatically reduced. So now when I re-rate the emotion, it's more like a 50 out of 100. And then I go back to the hot thought and I think about it and I go, well, everyone will judge me and think I'm incompetent. Well, people are judging, people are thinking, people are watching me, but perhaps they're more forgiving than I think they are. They're probably not going to crucify me if I get something wrong. So the intensity of that one has come down to about a 40 out of 100 as well. So to recap, we started with the fear of public speaking at 90 out of 100. By breaking down our thoughts, challenging unhelpful thinking styles, and using detective work, we found a more balanced perspective. The result? A significant drop in fear and a more confident mindset. This process isn't about eliminating fear entirely. It's about managing it in a way that allows you to move forward. If you found this exercise helpful, let me know in the comments. Have you ever faced fear like this? What strategies have worked for you? And if you want more content on managing thoughts, emotions, and mental well-being, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.